One thing everyone talks about when they think about AI is, what are we going to automate that a human does today? And we are trying to think about, where do we want the human to be? Then I think everyone's up for automating the thing that they didn't really sign up to do in the first place.
Today, I'm speaking with Angad Soin, Managing Director Australia, New Zealand, and Global Chief Strategy Officer at Xero. During his time there, Angad has held executive roles across operations, strategy, and corporate development. Before that, he spent 13 years at Deloitte. Welcome, Angad.
Thanks for having me.
So you've got 5 million customers. I knew you were huge in Australia, New Zealand, but you're going global. You've got UK, Asia, the US. What does your role, MD and Global Chief Strategy Officer, actually mean for that?
Mission is to make life better for small businesses, their advisors, and the communities in which they serve, which is a pretty noble purpose. I've done lots of strategy workshop sessions. One beautiful thing when I joined Xero is I don't have to go change the vision. And so I think when you take that into account, my role in both hats is actually really simple, which is listen to customers, understand what they need, and then help us as a business make the right decisions to go deliver on that mission. It's as simple as that.
I love that. Always thinking about the customer. We share that in common there. Now, before Xero, you were 13 years as Deloitte, advising organizations on transformation.
Yep.
How does that shape how you bring this role to Xero?
I think really importantly, when I was an advisor, it's the mindset you bring. So the mindset I always brought to every client was as an owner. If I was the owner of this company, or if I worked at this company, what advice would I want? Because what is going to make this company better, rather than treat it as a project for 3 to 6 weeks or 3 months and then leave and go away. Which meant the way we thought about how we delivered advice was really about what's the right answer for this client. You can make anything look good in a spreadsheet, but what will actually get implemented by the customer, which means if it gets done, life's better for them and for the company. So the right answer for the client is the most important thing.
You, I think, hit a moment where your growth was accelerating and you have this partner network of bookkeepers, accountants, I think you call them advisors for short, and you had more leads than humans could possibly contact. So what was the moment you realized that you needed to change what the traditional approach was to something else?
We obviously have had the benefit of 20 odd years here in the Southern Hemisphere, and we've been around in other countries for a while now. But we've built a great brand. In places like Australia and New Zealand, we get a lot of leads. Even in the UK, people know about Xero. Our brand presence in the US was more nascent. And so it was important for us to be able to find the right customers, the right leads. And, the US, broad,
huge country.
Huge country, often gets treated as one country, but as you know, it's like many different countries in one. And the needs, where accountants are, where advisors are, what problems they're trying to solve are all different. So without us being able to invest huge amounts of people, we still wouldn't be able to reach all those accountants and bookkeepers in the country. So it was a great opportunity. Then with the technology that's coming, some from Salesforce, allowed us to think about how do we scale the impact we can have, get the right leads as quickly as possible. And then most importantly, let humans do what they do best, which is have that conversation, have the conversation with the client, but not spend all their time trying to go through lead lists, cold calling, trying to find the right person to speak to. How do we use technology to do that better?
You deployed a SDR agent, Sales Development Rep Agent, which was taking outbound, right, to follow up on opportunities. Like, tell us a little bit about that and how you got through the internal politics to get it over the line.
Well, I think the beauty was we picked an area and a market where there wasn't the politics, right? US, big opportunity. We know our sales reps can't reach as many people as we possibly want to. So that change management journey was a lot easier. Then we built something very quickly, quick sprints, and we got it out into the hands of our reps pretty quickly. Now, if you're a salesperson, what do you want to do? You want to talk to a customer that wants to talk to you. You don't want to have to do all the heavy lifting of getting that lead, talking to them, the email, cold rejections. And so what the agent allows them to do is get out there and have the conversation they want to have. And the results are pretty amazing. 3 times the open rate on the emails, which shows that actually the messaging resonated. Over 100 qualified leads that then converted as signed partners we wouldn't have had as Xero that quickly. That's just a phenomenal business outcome. And so it makes it easy. Again, if you're a sales rep, you've got big targets. If you can see that the agent is giving you help to get to your outcome, you're bought in pretty quickly.
That's an absolute slam dunk, if you ask me, if I was presenting that presentation, which actually is a good segue to my next question, because you've seen so many AI pitches, I'm sure, not only now in your current role, but when you were evaluating back at Deloitte Ventures. So I guess when you got presented with Agentforce and what could be possible here, what was going through your mind as to the criteria and why this was the right choice for Xero?
So AI is coming, and of course, it's going to bring huge opportunity. And I think what's really important for us was, one, how is it embedded in the workflow for a human being? Trying to get them to learn all the time new technology is just a drain and actually ruins productivity. So we use Salesforce. That's what our reps use today. It made it a logical reason to start building on top of that. The other thing is we use a lot of your products in a good way, which means that the data was already there, so we could build on top of it. And we think about this the same way for our customers. As we're embedding AI into our platform, we're trying to do it in the workflow in how small business customers use Xero, just the same way we could do that with your platform.
I love that. So in the flow of work, and then with the foundation of the rich context that makes an agent really powerful.
Exactly.
I love that. So talking about the AI pilots that mostly are failing in enterprises, and it's not because they're bad technology, but I think some of it is not what you said, right? Not putting in the place where the folks are working, and also that foundation of data. So share a little more of the secrets. I don't know what you can share here, but like, what did you do internally to make sure that this was going to succeed from the beginning?
Yeah, I think a few things we should be honest about. One, people are going to do pilots and they will fail. And frankly, I think if you're doing pilots in this with AI today and some are not failing, you're probably not trying enough. And you're probably going to try and push the boundaries enough. So if everything's simple and easy and it works, you're probably being a bit too constrained. So one, accept some failure. It's okay. You don't want them all to fail, and you don't want them all to stay in POCs, right? You don't want them to get there, but you can't scale them. So I think a few things we did. One, clear business outcome. One, room with a less kind of internal concern or challenge about what's going to happen. Like I said, everyone wanted more leads in the US. It's like a pretty easy thing to get behind, right? And so by doing those two things, you get the business on board. Then the next thing was most of the credit goes to our team that built this on top of the platform, right? They worked quickly. They worked with partners on the front line. And so it was an iterative process rather than working in a black room, trying to ship something and say, hey, I hope this gives you the outcome and move on to the next thing.
Business working with IT.
Exactly. So I think, and the team, really care, and they care about the business outcome, and they know what the business outcome is. So you don't have just technologists working in a dark room. You have them with people driving change.
Yeah. Now, we've talked a lot about the technology and some of the teams behind it, but how do you ensure that now Xero can scale as you interact with your customer and that the human experience doesn't get lost as part of this?
I think one thing everyone talks about when they think about AI is, what are we going to automate that a human does today? And we are trying to think about, where do we want the human to be? So if you start with that end outcome, which is, what is a human going to distinctly continue to be able to do, and design around that, then it means you're allowing people to do the best work they want to do, the reason they came to Xero in the first place. And then you will automate away tasks that they were doing. And we see this today. We drive AI productivity. 90% of those people put that energy back into higher value adding tasks. So if you are very clear with your people, this is the work that you want to do, and we want to enable you to do that, and here's the human element of it, then I think everyone's up for automating the thing that they didn't really sign up to do in the first place.
It's the messy middle that happens at work. So you mentioned some numbers there. You mentioned the 90%. I guess you've got a really interesting role where a lot of times we're speaking to technologists that say, oh, yes, it's working, it's succeeding, but you have to make a business decision of whether it's working. So what does success look like for the company as Xero, for your customers, for your employees? How do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's right. We think about it in those two elements. So one, for our customers, are they actually getting a better outcome? Go back to our mission. Like if they're just getting more product and more features, but they can't live a better life as a small business or an advisor, then we've kind of missed the point. Then we're just putting technology, more and more technology into their hands for the sake of it, and that's not a good outcome. Productivity and joy for them to show up to work. Like trying to do the old-fashioned, time tracking of like, do they do the task faster? That's not success. But every role at any company has pretty clear business outcomes they contribute to. And so making sure that those outcomes are getting better, of higher quality, is how we measure success. And then I think we're realistic. You're going to start with some simple wins and you're going to build up to where you might start seeing some financial outcomes, but expecting those financial outcomes always straight away. In the SDR case, that was possible. In other cases, it will take some time, and that's okay.
I love that measured approach, but coming back to the mission is critical there. So it's interesting because SMBs are a big part of your customer base, and they face tough conditions where they're trying to move fast as well, especially with the macro economy that we're in, and they're managing risk. So, what advice would you give them to building resilience and finding opportunity with that, within all this disruption?
I think there are two things that are always true for a small business, no matter what technological change is coming along. One, they're time poor. And two, it's hard to invest ahead of the curve, right? When you're building a small business, if you bootstrapped it, or even if you've got a bit of funding, you're trying to work out, how do I get ahead of it? And so I think what AI enables them to do is, one, are there a couple of tasks that you're like, why do I have to do this? It is draining me from being able to do the thing I love. Find a way, can you automate it? Give you back time. And then on the investing ahead of the curve, can you use something that you might have thought, well, I either need capital to invest, I need to hire someone to do this. Can you use technology to automate that away so you don't have to do that investment and keep growing? And ultimately, that's what most small businesses will want to do. And they don't have to, it's not growth for growth's sake. It might be spend more time with their family, get enough revenue to do X, Y, Z. So being clear on their own mission, then finding the way that technology unlocks that is critical.
Very sage advice. Now, you've been in one of these interesting trajectories where you've worked on one side, which is advising customers, and now you're on the other side leading an organization. What's one thing you'd wish you'd known back then and now you would probably want to share from both sides, right?
Yeah. I would say any plan or strategy, I remember we used to create these documents, and normally they'd end with this slide. There's probably about 5 or 6 work streams and themes and about 52 initiatives. They're never happening.
Yeah.
They're just never happening.
The 12-month, 5-year, 10-year plan.
Exactly. So I think in reality, what you're actually going to do is say, what are the 2 to 3 things that really matter? Move fast on them, right? And in reality, what needs to happen in the next 12 to 18 months? And I think that was true then, and it's even more true now because the world is changing so rapidly. Realistically, in 12 months, you're going to learn a lot more, and then you're going to adjust. So there's no point trying to create this long-term, multi-threaded, multi-initiative. You can't absorb that much. Your company can't absorb it. You're not going to keep track of it, and the world would have moved on. So pick 2 or 3 big things, move fast, and track them, and then adjust in 12 or 18 months.
What I love about that message is it's not too dissimilar to how to approach AI and this current mode, right? It's good business advice also translates to a transformation like we're going through AI. So you get a chance to interact with so many customers every single day as part of your role. Is there one that comes to mind and, how you've helped improve their lives?
The thing I love is hearing from those advisors that used to maybe be in a bigger firm or didn't know if they could start their own firm. They were a practitioner. And what Xero enabled them to do was actually start their own firm on their terms, serving the clients they want to serve and living the life they want to live, which is awesome. I think one of our new announcements, Zeroforce, which is a platform that's going to allow accountants and bookkeepers, if they want to, build their own custom workflows on top of that, is just once again going to allow them what cloud did for them, allow them to take that next step, which is build the practice in the way they want. What small businesses want to be able to do is serve customers, live the dream that they start a small business for lots of other reasons, which is not accounting, and or managing their payroll or managing their payments. And so Xero obviously gives them that tool set. The stories we hear often is, I was worried, I didn't know how to manage my finances, I've always stayed away from that. They come to Xero, they see a clean, intuitive interface, they understand how to engage with it. And then, of course, now with Jax, which is our super agent, it's made simpler language for small businesses to be able to engage with their financial data.
And grounded on that data as well.
And grounded on real data that's their context, not broad, generic statements. And, of course, they'll still talk to their accountant and bookkeeper to get good, holistic advice. But sometimes if you just want a quick bit of information retrieval, you're on the run, you want to get some insight about your own business, this gives them a much more natural way to engage with the product and their data. And most importantly, gives them confidence to run their business, which is what I love.
So what I love about that, and going back to your earlier response, it's in the flow of work. It's much like we are positioning Slackbot as your personal agent, but very much grounded on the context you have, because absolutely LLMs are amazing, but if it doesn't know your role, and what you have available, what you can and can't do, what country you're in, right? It's pretty important for your examples. I wish you all the best. You've been an amazing customer. Thank you so much for that whole partnership over the many, many years. And thanks again for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Leandro. And I appreciate the partnership in return. I think it's been great for two businesses that, to your point, have some shared DNA, open ecosystems, love for the customer. And I think that's why we work well together.
Thanks again, Angad.